Welcome to Redefine Your Worthiness with Caurel Richards. Get ready to step into your power to unleash your true potential. Caurel is a rapid transformational practitioner specializing in childhood trauma. While also being a mental health advocate, Caurel has embraced her own personal struggles to transform herself, to turn her pain into her greatest gift. Her mission is to provide the ultimate safe space to understand and support your most vulnerable moments. Get ready for real and raw conversations that will inspire, empower, and encourage full self-expression and self-acceptance. Redefine Your Worthiness with Caurel Richards starts now. You're checking in from. This is your guest, Caurel, and I don't know if you can tell, but my energy is a little low today, so I'm just as how I have checked in with myself. I want you to check in with yourself right now to see how you're feeling. And hopefully you had a week filled with smiles. If not, it's not too late. You have a couple of more hours before the weekend starts to find something to make you smile. Today's episode is pretty special to me because we have the privilege, and yes, I said the privilege to speak to Megan again. She was my second guest, and we're going to be talking to her today about an experience with me, of course, in terms of hypnotherapy, hypnosis. And there are a couple of stigmas that are still around it, and I wanted her to assist me in dispelling or destigmatizing, something that I find to be very beneficial. So without any further delay, Megan, welcome.
Hello, it's good to be back. I will balance your low energy with my high vibe energy because I am just flying today.
Oh, wonderful. I love it.
Could be the caffeine, could be that good things are coming.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Either or, I'm glad that you're going to be able to balance me out because it really takes a bit to balance me out. So So for those who didn't get a chance to hear you, see you in our last episode, just tell them a little bit. Give them a rundown of who you are.
I am Megan. I am a wife and a mom of two very little ones, 2.5 and 5. I am a theta healer, a human design reader, and a guided healer by way of guided meditation. I have a bunch of offers out there. So if you are interested in some freebies, if you are interested in some guided healings that you can download for free, you can go to www.theconsciousvillage.ca and download some stuff there. But I'm also working on something super special. I am very passionate about helping families, especially parents, heal so that they can understand their children on a soul level, how to respond to your children based on their human design type. It has changed the way that I parent. So if you're interested in that, follow me on Instagram at The Conscious Village, and you'll see kind of how this rolls out because, I'm still working on it.
I love it. You came prepared. Yes. It's so interesting. While you were speaking, I remember yesterday actually doing a presentation because I'm also a presenter with a Stigma-Free Society, and we typically do virtual presentations with children. So either they're in middle school or in high school, and we're talking to them about mental health. And most of the times they're coming to us with questions that they probably shouldn't have at such a young age, but they have it nonetheless. Their first question is, how do I help my mom or my dad through depression? And I'm like, that's such a heavy burden as a kid to be walking around with. So I'm very glad that that's the stance that you've taken in terms of, helping parents to deal with their stuff so that kids don't feel like it's their responsibility to take it on.
And, I would have been one of those kids asking you that question. So that's where my passion lies, because I know what it's like to be a kid and not know who I could rely on or get guidance from. So,
yeah. Wonderful. Well, not that being wonderful, but you get what I'm saying.
My experience is there for a reason.
Absolutely. Right? I completely agree with that. And, when you get to a point in your life where you're like, okay, no more, you decide that you want to choose a modality that works for you. And that's something that I speak to them about, where it doesn't have to necessarily be talk therapy, right?
Mhm.
And I think for me, I went to talk therapy and it didn't necessarily work. And if memory serves me correct, did you ever go to talk therapy as well?
I did. I did pockets of it.
Yeah.
And the first round in my early 20s was very helpful in creating awareness
Yeah.
and realizing that, okay, I was actually quite self-aware for a young, being my young 20s. But then I went again right after I got married, and it had nothing to do with getting married. But just other things surrounding my life, and it didn't really help.
Yeah.
I needed something deeper. And I remember actually yelling at my therapist and saying to her, I'm like, she had mentioned she'd written something down. And I'm like, why didn't you tell me? Like, why aren't you poking at me? I'm like, like, I told you to dig. I told you to be confrontational. Like, call me on my crap. And she wasn't. Lovely woman. I actually really enjoyed her, but I needed something deeper. And
Yeah.
that's when and that's why I've seen you 4 times.
Yeah, and I remember
Deeper than
you
that.
saying that to me. I remember you saying to me, "Hey, I'm very good at talking a good game," and I can relate to that too. So you were like, "Look, remember to call me out." And of course, I was like, you don't have to tell me that. I'm definitely going to call you out." So
Yeah.
I think even in my experience, I know a lot. You know a lot. So when we go to someone and all they can do is tell us things that we already know, I'm like, okay, so where's the resolution? So that brings to me a question, of course, because why are we here? We're here to talk about hypnotherapy. For you, what is the thing that drew you to hypnotherapy? And also, what are some of the fears that you had associated with it?
Okay. What drew me to hypnotherapy is that deepness. Well, first of all, you drew me to it because we had a connection. I wasn't going to be one to just be like hypnotherapist and see whoever pops up. I
Yeah.
had a connection with you and I immediately felt safe with you, which dispelled a lot of my fears. But what drew me to it is that I am, like I said, I'm quite self aware and I do theta healing, which is my energy healing modality on myself. But there are some things that, like I always say, it's hard to see the picture when you're in the frame. And I needed someone else to draw out what what my challenges were.
Yeah.
So knowing you, so I didn't at the time. I've always wanted to try hypnosis, see the difference between that and theta healing, but I have traded with some people with theta healing, but I wanted a different modality.
Yeah.
And my fears of it were, I'm not afraid to get deep,
Hmm.
I guess. Loss of control.
Yeah.
There's a lot of control issues that I have. As much as I want to say I'm easy breezy flowy, when I get down to it, I'm like, I actually have control issues.
Yeah. And you know what? It's not surprising. That's the one concern, the one hesitation that a lot of people have said, because clearly we're having this conversation, even though
Mhm.
months ago we said we were going to have this conversation. But I did a poll on Instagram last week, and that was the top response.
Can I
It,
dispel it right now? I had full
please.
control over the session. I had full control. I did not feel out of control. And there were things, of course, that made me feel uncomfortable. But if you want anyone coming in hypno is wanting change or something in their life they just can't shake because and so these are people I would think are willing to have change, but with change comes uncomfortability. But when we got to those uncomfortable parts and I started to squirm, literally and
Yes.
figuratively, you held me. And it's like, even though it's online, I felt held by you. You brought out some of the craziest crap. The subconscious mind fascinates me. And I'm like, but I had control. I
Yeah.
felt so safe. And I've come so far since I started working with you.
Yeah.
Um, but I didn't ever feel a lack of control. I never felt fear or scared, none of that. So if anyone's curious and you're ready for that change, and you're ready to get a little bit uncomfortable, just know that that uncomfortability is so temporary. And what I've been going through in this past month, I don't know what I would have done had we not started these sessions. Like, did we start working with each other back in September?
Yeah, just about.
Yeah. I don't know where I would be without any of that. I think I would be in shambles.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you're not anymore. I'm grateful, and I say this a lot to the clients that I have. I'm grateful that you were able to lean in and just trust that wherever you would have ended up, that you'd have been okay. And I
Yeah.
think also it's the lack of knowledge that I'm hearing a lot of from a lot of people, is that they've watched on mainstream TV or Netflix. One in particular that I was brought on to was Hypnotic. I suppose he was a hypnotherapist, and he was basically taking over control of their lives. So when they saw that, the person said they were scared shitless. They were, in her words, she was scared stiff. So, I'm grateful that I'm able to have this conversation with you, because, it's giving knowledge, it's bringing awareness to the fact that, hey, it's not what mainstream says it is. Mainstream, they want to give you that explosive reaction. They want you to
It
feel.
makes good TV.
Exactly.
And for those who may not be aware, everything we see on TV isn't quite real, is it?
No, it's not. It definitely isn't.
It makes good TV. Now, I would say doing the hypno sessions with you has given me more control over my life, more control over my reactions. I actually feel like I'm driving my life, as opposed to, I can feel my emotions now. And I was an avoider. I was the queen of avoiding anything uncomfortable, anything confrontational. Not that I go out confronting people, but life has dealt me a very interesting hand lately, and I have been okay. And I have been able to feel my emotions and be okay feeling them. And that's helped me to propel my next chapter.
Yeah. And I'm happy and excited for that next chapter. So just to give them some context,
Yes.
what was it like going through that first session, not knowing what the hell to expect? Because even though I use hypnosis or hypnotherapy, that's not all of it. That's the modality, that's the avenue. And I want to also give a bit of a definition, because just to give some context, hypnosis isn't necessarily anything that you don't experience on a daily basis, right? Because hypnosis is really a sleep of your nervous system. So for everybody that's in fight or flight mode or fawn, your nervous system is deregulated at this point. What hypnosis does is it just regulates it. It calms your conscious mind, so that we could access the subconscious mind. And I'm using so many terminologies right now, but in simple terms, it really is just very similar to meditation. Would you say that's true? At least in my experience, it was. So would you say that was true for you?
The deep, relaxed feeling I get now, there are a lot of people out there, because I do run guided meditations. A lot of people have a hang up about it just because they feel like they can't meditate. Yeah. You can access this hypnotic state, and it's not even hypnotic like what you would imagine it is on TV. Honestly, it's deep relaxation, and it is lovely. It is just so serene, and just, it's so calm, because we live in such a stimulating world. To be in a state that isn't as stimulating is refreshing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sitting in that, and it's just the calmness and the stillness that you feel going through it. You get to, yeah, you
I
get
like that.
to ask yourself, or well, I do the asking, clearly. I get to ask you questions that you typically would fight. Like somebody would ask you something in a conscious conversation, and you'd come up with all these excuses. In that state, it's almost like you don't want to fight. You just want to give the honest answer, because the honest answer is actually going to free you. Tell me a little bit
Yeah.
more about your experience with that.
I didn't feel defensive at all. I didn't feel misunderstood. I didn't feel like what I felt was exactly what you said. Like, I was there to look for answers as to what my blocks were and the variety of appointments that we've done together. So I was ready for it. What was the question?
Not
I
what.
lost my train of thought.
No problem. And that's the thing. It's that you're so in that mode that you
Mhm.
answer what is asked without even realize that
And
you
it
are
came so
answering it.
easily. And the thing is you're not giving me the answers. And it was just so validating that I know.
Yeah.
There's this picture that I have on my phone, and it's of a woman looking in the mirror, but her reflection is reaching out of the mirror and hugging her, and it says, "It's always been you."
Yeah.
And I love that because you have all the answers inside, but when you're in that fight or flight mode, you're not getting those answers because you're so used to having to defend yourself or have to blame. All of this is acting out of safety.
Yeah.
What did you need to do to feel safe as a child? You're
Yeah.
acting that out, even though you're not a child anymore. You're acting that out in your adult life. But when you get to be and you have the opportunity to have this state of pure relaxation, there's none of that, and you just can easily be like, this is my situation. This is why I have this situation. This is how I remedy this situation. It's just so perfect and
Yeah.
easy. I found it easy.
Yeah.
It wasn't hard at all.
Yeah. I've had clients say to me at the end, they're like, man, I thought this was going to be a little bit more scarier, and they end up feeling so much lighter. And they're like, so this is it. Like there's not a next step. And I'm like, no, this is really it. It's just you get the chance to face those versions of you that are preventing you from having that ease, that are
Mm.
preventing you from having the energy that you want, the confidence that you want, those meaningful relationships that you really, really are looking for. But because those versions of you keep talking to you, say, oh, you're not deserving of that. You're bad, you're guilty, you're flawed. You then say, okay, well, maybe I'm not deserving of that.
Mm-hmm. And that's just our conditioning. But
Yeah.
that's one thing that we have in common with the different types of modalities that we use is that people are like, that's it. Like, people don't believe me because it's that easy. And if you can't see me, I'm making air quotes, that easy. We overcomplicate things as humans. We're just energy.
Yeah.
Okay. Our emotions, our traumas, our memories are just energy. So if you walk into a room and it's tense and it's sticky and you can feel like people are pissed in there, and you walk in with your light, bright energy and you're like, hey, I'm here, and you make some sort of stupid fart joke and everybody starts laughing, all of a sudden the room feels uplifted. That's how easy it is to shift the energy. Or vice versa. Everybody's happy, everybody's joking around, and that one person comes in with that dark cloud over their head, all of a sudden, woo. That's
Yeah.
what we're doing in your body.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's so simple. You just shift those energies out, because that negative energy that you're feeling, anything that you picked up and kind of kept close to you in your childhood, or that you go throughout in life, it's going to sit there if you don't process it, which who was taught how to process it? If
No.
you don't, it's sitting somewhere in your body. That's why your chest feels a little tight. That's why your shoulders are, cranking up. That's why your neck hurts so bad. Like, so many reasons and so many ways that this negative energy can affect our lives. And I've gone on a rant, but
I love it. I love it. Like I'm sitting here just smiling because this is you in your element, right? I've always wanted to see you in your element, just doing what you do, because you are very talented, you're very gifted. And so when I see in those other modes, I'm like, I wish you could see this version that I get to see, so I'm glad that you're standing in that.
well, thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. I would give you any other opportunity that you want. And I'm opening this opportunity to other people as well, because
Mhm.
I haven't launched it yet, but it's launching next month. It's called the Healing Circle, the relationship within Healing
Mm.
Circle. And it's not your typical healing circle. It's that moment that you realize that it's not what's wrong with you, but it's what happened to you. It's like everything comes full circle. You are actually sitting with those versions of yourself that are preventing you from having the very thing that you want: ease, energy, connection, and so much more. And that's where the transformation begins. And because you get this understanding is just so powerful.
Mm.
And with this newfound power, the relationship within starts to develop in such a magical way that the chaos just starts to melt away. And you become so rooted in who you are, your own sense of self, your own sense of peace and compassion. And that is what I'm offering, because I think we're deserving of that, don't you think?
100%. And the majority of my clients who I speak to, they're lost. They're lost on their purpose. They don't know what the hell they're here for. What is the point? But it starts there, because you're not going to get your purpose, or what, those answers to those big things, or that thing that you're not going to get to your natural gifts and talents while you're sitting there hating yourself.
No.
You and I only got to this place where we're able to help people in the way that we're passionate about, because we started to love ourselves. Now, I think we need to do this whole, like, a session or a podcast on self-love, because I have so much to say about it, because I used to be so opposed to the concept. I'm like, who loves themselves? But until I was able to make that shift, there was no way I was going to find out that I was actually really good at what I do, you know?
Yeah. And it's looking for that outside validation that keeps us
Mhm.
stuck. I'm not saying that it's not okay for someone to tell you how good you are at things or how talented you are. But if it's not landing, especially because you don't believe it, you don't already think that about yourself, it's almost like, what's the point? What's the point of
Mhm.
me coming to you, Megan, and telling you, oh my God, you're so gifted, when you are already saying, man, I am a piece of whatever you want to fill in the blank with. You get what I'm saying? So I always come from a space of compassion. And I think that's why people gravitate to my sessions, is because I'm not there to beat up on you how you've been beating up on yourself.
Can I
I'm
share
here to
how to
tell
get
you
to
that,
that self-compassion?
oh, yes.
Yes, by doing this work.
Yeah,
So to me, like the theta healing, the hypno sessions, it helps you gain awareness as to who you are and why you are the way that you are. When you have that awareness, you can understand that about yourself. When you understand, like, oh, I'm not broken. I just, wasn't dealt the most profound hand. When you can understand that, that's when compassion comes in.
yeah,
You know, I feel like I'm a POS because I was literally told that. Or, if you were in an abusive situation, even if you just there was a home of emotional neglect,
yeah.
that's enough to have trauma.
Oh, yeah.
But
That's more than
compassion,
enough.
oh yeah,
Trust me.
compassion comes in when we understand ourselves.
Yeah. And I do believe that and I look at it as a basket. If you accept what's in your basket, your circumstances, the trauma, the
Mhm.
pain, the hurt, from that space, you can take what you don't want, keep what you want. But when
Mhm.
you try to avoid it, when you try to pretend that it doesn't exist, you're actually working against yourself, because at that point you're slamming the door on yourself, because you're telling yourself, hey, I don't want to see it. So if I don't want to see it, it doesn't exist, when the truth is it does still exist.
And I did that for years. And it was only, the birth of my baby boy that I was like, oh my God, the basket. You have to do something about the basket.
Because
So,
what we don't want to turn into our parents, right? And we say that, but then we don't realize how we perpetuate that when we decide not to deal with the basket.
yeah.
And that's the hard truth. So of course, I would love to stay here all day and have this conversation, even today when I don't have the best energy. But we have to get out of here. But before we do, where can they find you again?
at theconsciousvillage.ca or on Instagram at the.conscious.village.
Okay, wonderful. Lovely having you here, Megan. And thank you for everyone that showed up and, of course, showed out. I'm going to repeat again about this healing circle that I'm launching next month, only because it's so beneficial for you. And if you want to have a better relationship with yourself, if you want to improve how you see yourself and how you feel about yourself, feel free to join the waitlist by visiting was that a lot of W's or a couple of W's? It's indivinetime.com/healing circle. And again, thank you for showing up. And I'm grateful for you sharing your time with me. And also remember, if you're going to be kind to others, also remember to be kind to yourself. Take care, everybody. Thank you for joining us today on Redefine Your Worthiness with Caurel Richards. Join us here in our safe space for real and raw conversations. My mission is to support you at your most vulnerable moments. Together, we will redefine your worthiness to embrace your own path to personal growth. For more information about me, you can visit indivinetime.com. That is INDIVINETHYME.com.